This is the first sound check for the Gabe and Walt show.
This is Gabe of the Gabe and Walt Show doing first sound check as well.
There you go. Hell of a game so far. Well, hell of a game, period.
Yeah,
Game's over.
yeah.
So,
All right, everyone out there, this is the Gabe and Walt Show. My name is Gabriel Marte, and I'm joined by my other better half, Mr. Walter Melgar.
better half? I don't know about that.
Better half. I'd be a
But,
better half. You're the football guy. You're the sports guy. You know more. I am always on your coattails. That's absolutely for sure.
well, you know what? We play off each other very, very well. So that's what makes this podcast so freaking awesome. So,
So, I'm sure that you guys are seeing or sensing or reading or have realized that there has been a bit of a change to the show, and we're going to get into that in a bit of a moment. But first and foremost, please go like, rate, share, and subscribe to the Gabe and Walt Show. And it's the best way to support us. We're always going to harp on that. And thank you guys for joining us. One quick thing, before we get into all the Super Bowl 56 talk, 56, right? I don't know
yep.
why my head is fuzzy right now already after this crazy emotional kind of game, at least for me. But yeah, we are now the Gabe and Walt Show, formerly the Arena podcast, but the Gabe and Walt Show, I think, has a little bit of a better ring to it, no?
Yeah, and I think it kind of, well, obviously it reflects better of what we are. It's Gabe and Walt, right?
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
talking sports. So
yeah.
I think it was a good change, and it's going to be a fun change. I think
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. It's already been a lot of fun with all the stuff that you've been putting out there with all the memes.
I have
All the-
been going a little crazy. I do admit, you know.
I
So
I think it's fun. I think it's all fun. I think it's a reflective of what we're trying to do here, and it's just trying to have fun while talking sports.
exactly.
The main reason that we made the change is, yeah, as well said, to kind of better reflect what the show is about, but it's also so that you guys can maybe get out there and have a little bit more of a connection with us. If you see our faces and our names plastered all over the place, maybe you get to know us a little bit better, even if it's just visually and through audio, as you are doing so right now.
Word.
With that being said, what a game. Oh my goodness. I have not had that much I have not had that much fun watching a Super Bowl in a long, long time. From beginning to end. I think some of the commercials were pretty good. One thing that I really, really enjoyed was the fact that it wasn't really about the commercials. It was more about the game this time more than anything.
Yeah,
And the halftime show was amazing. I thought the halftime show was great.
it
Um,
was.
it was reflective of what what a lot of us in sports are into, I think. And we'll get to that in a bit. But what did you think of the game? We didn't get to watch it together.
Unfortunately,
We got to text about it together.
yeah.
But holy crap,
I
what a
think
freaking
next year
game.
we have to do. This is my hope that next year we do a live show. You
Yes,
know,
that would be super cool.
I think it would be cool, and I think it'd be cool to have people kind of dial into us while we're watching and just have like that communal experience. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
I think that'll be awesome. Um, in terms of the game, it's kind of reflective of the fact that this postseason has been fantastic. I
It
mean,
really has.
this is just the culmination of one of the best postseasons that I think I've witnessed in a very, very long time, and I've seen a lot of
I
postseasons.
I
You
think it's
know,
gonna go down as definitely in the top five greatest postseasons of all time, but it's certainly the greatest postseason I've ever seen, or ever been a part of as a fan. I can't say
hmm
that I've been like super entrenched on the postseason drama forever. I think I've always been into sports, always follow sports, always I've been inspired by sports, but I've never really followed the drama as much as I followed it this year. And maybe it's in due part to the pandemic. The fact that there was so much drama because of the effect of the pandemic and on the teams and all sports, as a whole.
Yeah,
Um, but I think this postseason, what it shows is the best part of sports, which is storylines and drama within the game. It's the game is what we go to, it's what gets us in there, the love of sports. But I think it's just the drama surrounding everything that happens in a game that makes it fun.
yeah, and
And what can make it heartbreaking, because I think there were so many ups and downs in this game between OBJ's early
oh yeah,
injury,
that was tough.
Matthew Stafford's potential injury,
Joe Burrow
Joe
looked like he
Burrow's
was
injury
out.
was Joe Burrow's injury looked pretty bad, and I think that injury that he sustained, we don't really know the gravity of the injury itself, because
Right.
he's ice cold. He kind of went out there, put it on the line and stuff like that. But I think that the game really changed, and it really changed. It really was the turning point for me, as to the result of the game. It changed in the moment that Joe Burrow got injured. He still went out there. He played the game. He tried not to let it affect him, but I think that it affected the play calling and his abilities, because he was definitely changed. He was
Okay.
definitely changed, I think. And I guess we can talk about the injury and what I saw from my perspective of
Hmm.
how the injury itself can affect a person, because the kind of injury that he had, I see often in jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts.
Right.
Um, but what did you think? How did you feel about um the game overall, as far as like play calling, intensity, drama, opening drives, everything? Like anything that stood out to you?
Well, I think if you look at the way the Super Bowl started, it kind of followed this a similar script to many other Super Bowls. Usually, and you hear these athletes talk about it all the time. It usually takes them about a quarter to kind of get acclimated to the whole experience of being in the Super Bowl. As much as you may have been in the Super Bowl before and stuff like that, there's still always a different experience when you get to these games, and it usually takes like about a quarter to settle down, and you kind of saw that. The one surprising thing for me was that I thought it would be a much more I thought that we would see a lot more points than we did. And I think what may have happened here is the OBJ injury, is the fact that Stafford was kind of, a little bit hobbled there with the ankle.
Hmm.
The Joe Burrow thing probably did have a big impact on him going forward. But I think the two takeaways that I have really from this game, well, actually three. The first was how well the Cincinnati offensive line, played for 3 quarters of the game.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
know, I really, and I told you this when we spoke about this last week on the podcast. I really thought that um, the defensive line of the Rams were going to take over the game, and they did just in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took them a while to get there, but they finally did, and you did see what happened. That was the quarter where the Bengals were shut out. They did not score in that quarter,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is kind of unlike the way it is. The other part was Jamar Chase having, he caught 5 balls for 89 yards, but they were very quiet
They were.
catches. Like, with Jamar Chase, he's such an explosive talent that you would expected to have seen a big game from him. Um, it 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 just so happens that T. Higgins was the one that kind of picked up the slack there. He caught
Hmm.
4 balls for
Hmm.
100 yards, including a very controversial 75-yard touchdown pass,
Hmm.
where you can make the case that probably should have been a penalty.
Well, I
You
wanted
know.
so that was the first point of contention that I wanted to bring up, the drama
Hmm.
of that play that involved the face mask, right?
Yeah, that was
So
clear. That
that
was
was super clear
clearly
as day, 100% a violation. As a matter of fact, I actually think that would have been a pick if he didn't face mask him. because that ball was going right. I thought that it was going right into
Yeah,
uh who
Ramsey,
was it?
Jalen
Ramsey.
Ramsey.
Ramsey, yes. I
Hmm.
thought that that was going to be right in Ramsey's chest if Higgins didn't pull him out of the way. You know, the way that when he did that face mask, he gave him a full 360 turnaround with that face mask and cleared the way for him to catch the ball.
Yeah,
You know,
Jalen Ramsey did not have a great game today, though.
he did not.
You know,
He did
and
not.
I'm a little surprised by that also. You know, but
I'm not necessarily, because if you think about the Tampa Bay game, he got beat out like in Tom Brady's
yes,
hits to Evan. Evan
hmm,
was beating Ramsey out every single time.
yeah,
So I wasn't necessarily surprised about that. And I think Evans is a much better receiver than Chase or Higgins. So
really,
I think so. I think so.
I think he's
Maybe because
better.
Evans, I feel like Evans is like just a big dude and a little bit more physical. Um,
Oh, but
but
Chase is amazing.
Chase is
He's an
amazing. Jamar
amazing
Chase is
talent.
amazing. I
You
mean,
know,
yeah, he is. He
so
is. He is.
yeah, but I thought you know I'm happy for OBJ,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
you saw him after the game crying, and
Oh, he's got an ugly cry face, man.
yes,
Oh
he
my god.
does, he
If
does.
that face, I haven't checked Instagram yet, but I'm pretty sure that that his face is all over memes. They're
That's
all over memes.
exactly,
Oh my goodness.
but he had a heartwarming moment afterwards. His wife is pregnant and due any moment, and
Mm,
he went over there and gave that belly a kiss, and you could see that he was overcome with just emotion, and
yeah.
the
Yeah, for sure.
the man has been through a lot. Some of it is self-inflicted on him, but some of it was kind of out of his out of his say what's the word I'm looking for? Out of his, it wasn't his fault. So I'm glad that he was able to, get the chip. I'm glad for Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald, hinted at retirement here. You know, I don't know if he's
Yeah.
going to go through it because you know what, he's still at the peak, right? But if you're going to go out, what better way to go out with a Super Bowl win, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
like I think that the storyline for a lot of people on the Rams, especially a lot of the players on the Rams, especially with everything, they threw the kitchen sink out. They were like, you know what,
they did
this is the year that it's going to have to happen, because if not, it's not going to happen at all. They are, I think it's 5 years away before a draft pick,
something like that.
5 or 6 years away, something
But
like that.
listen,
They're really far away from a draft pick. So
I
if
I
it
am
didn't
pretty
happen now, it
sure
wasn't going to happen. I think.
I'm pretty sure they're happy with the result. They'll deal with the picks 5 years
Yeah,
from
for
now.
sure, for sure,
You know.
absolutely. I mean, Matthew Stafford has maybe a few years left. Sean McVay is definitely most likely going to be moving on in a couple years. I don't think that he's going to stay there for a rebuild. And they will have to be rebuilding when they can. They
Hmm.
basically mortgaged the entire house for the stadium, for the team, for this Super
Yeah,
Bowl. They mortgaged everything. It's
they
like, all right,
did.
we got a Super Bowl. Now we're going to suck for a few years.
It kind of feels like when the Florida Marlins kind of went all in with that one championship that they got way back when.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
they just got every free agent and said, "Screw it, we're gonna buy ourselves a championship."
Yeah.
A little bit more difficult to do in the NFL, but kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
They did put in all their chips and they went all in. McVay, now the youngest Super Bowl winning
Mm-hmm.
coach,
Yep.
he beats
Yep.
Mike Tomlin out by
Yep.
9 months,
Mm-hmm.
right? And let's talk about Stafford because Stafford, I think, is another guy that has a really nice story. He spent how many years over at Detroit, made the playoffs over there 3 times, lost all of those games. Comes over to the Rams. They basically anoint him the savior for the franchise. And what does he
Yeah.
do? He wins the 4 games with the Rams. He has a completion percentage rate of 70%, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 2 of them which came in this game. Um, he was I like the fact that he won the championship because you know what?
Yeah. Yeah.
For all this time he's been kind of languishing in Detroit, and whatnot. And playing well while he was over there, but never got any recognition because
Yeah.
he was on a bad team.
Yeah.
Now he comes over here, and guess what? he has exactly as many championships as Aaron Rodgers.
So here's the thing, right? So because this is what's funny, right? Matthew Stafford was already being like kind of talked about, like, all right, like he's most likely going to be a Hall of Famer. He's most likely going to be, just on stats alone, he's most likely going to be
Yeah.
going into the Hall of Fame before this chip. Now that he has a chip, is it pretty much kind of a guarantee that he's going to be a Hall of Famer? I
It's
mean, Aaron
it's
Rodgers is going to be a Hall of Famer. There's no question about
yeah.
that, right?
The difference I think here, the thing that's gonna go against him is the record. The record is gonna kill him. You know, he was part of so many bad teams in Detroit. And you know, if you look at just in terms of wins and losses, it's not a good look for him. So I
Maybe, but I
think
think I think
that
I think that they'll make an exception. I mean, they can't.
maybe, you
I
know,
think his personal stats alone warrant the uh the induction. I mean, again, aside from the fact that he just got a Super Bowl
I think
championship, so
he's a perfect example of, you know, luck of the draw for the NFL, right?
hmm
Because here's a guy who, if you put him on any other team, you're talking about him Hall of Famer hands down,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
And he was unfortunately drafted into a very, very bad situation there that never got any worse because of management and all that stuff. And like I said, it just goes to show you, um, a lot of the times it's not how good you are, it is who you're surrounded with and who your coaches are. And I think Matt Stafford is a perfect example of that
Yeah,
because, like I said, any other team you put him on there, we're probably talking about him, you know, in terms of Brady and the Mannings of the world, you know, and stuff like that. And we just never really got a chance to have him in that discussion
yeah.
just because he's been on bad teams. Um,
So I would like to talk about the other QB, my man Joe Burrow.
yes. How to
What did you think of Joe Burrow?
I thought he had his best chance to win this game early on, and you know, it just
Really?
yeah, I think especially coming out of the second half, they were building some momentum there and stuff, and it just again, it maybe it had to do something with the timing of his quote unquote injury, and again, we don't know the extent and how serious that was, but he's probably going to look at this game and say that there was some missed opportunities there for him, you know.
I think for sure, for sure.
The good
I
thing about it is that he has plenty of time to get back there.
That's absolutely true. Now,
You know.
I want to talk about the injury in a bit, but my perspective, I thought Joe Burrow was up until the point that he got injured. I thought he looked like a veteran quarterback, and he looked really sharp. He looked strong. He looked cool. You know, I think early
Yeah,
on in
I
the game,
agree.
I think in the first quarter, he looked like he's been there plenty of times. The rest of the Bengals didn't look like they've been there. You know,
Yeah.
kind of hesitating, jumping for a ball, or stopping a little bit short on a reception attempt, kind of like being deer in the headlights a little bit. That was the receivers. I think that was the line. I think a lot of the Bengals, with the exception of Joe Burrow, and I think that goes to show. I think that goes to show the kind of effect that Joe Burrow, um, or not the effect, but one of the qualities that Joe Burrow has based on his tenure at LSU and being in these big game scenarios, and just, again, acting like he's been there before.
Yeah.
But
It's old hat for him.
I mean, look, coming out of the half with that first play, that was ballsy. That was a statement piece. That's we got
Yeah.
momentum. We got the momentum. I'm going to throw this Hail Mary pass, hit it, get the touchdown, and now sit down. What's up?
Yeah.
That was like, if I don't know what other move could have been more Joe Cool than that.
Yeah. I mean, he had a nice little game, 22 of 33 for 263 and a touchdown. The thing that is going to end up his legacy in this playoff run, 7 sacks this game.
Yeah, but that's not his
He
legacy.
no
I think
no
that's a Bengals
okay.
issue, man.
Yes, maybe wrong choice of words. I think the Bengals, um, if they're going to get back there, they have to fix that line. I
Yeah,
mean,
for sure,
that
man.
line,
Absolutely.
that line was really the difference probably in this game today, especially in that fourth quarter where they could not protect Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
It seemed like he went from, being untouched in the first half, and then, especially in that fourth quarter, all of a sudden, they were saying this is his fifth sack, and I'm like, where in the world did that come from?
So I
It just came in bunches with him,
Yeah, I mean,
and
all right. So my thing with the sacks is that I think that that the sacks came from like the Rams smelled blood in the water straight up.
yeah,
The Rams, for sure they noticed that he had an injury, and the injury was kind of hard on Joe Burrow. It changed how he was playing. They started running the ball a lot more because they didn't maybe Joe Burrow didn't have the confidence in staying in the pocket, being mobile and stuff. And the Rams were like, all right, he's hurt. We got to put him on his heels. We got to make him make mistakes. We got to like kind of push it to him. And I think that that's what kind of like really woke the Rams up. Is like, hey, we have a chance here to make something happen, turn over the ball, whatever the case may be. But we have a chance to make something happen. I think that came directly from the injury.
I
Now,
also think that Aaron Donald kind of woke up. There was a
yeah,
point in the
for
game.
sure, for
Yeah, there was a
sure.
point in the game where he kind of shoved Joe Burrow on the sideline, and everybody got into a scrum, and I think that really kind of woke him up and
Yeah,
said, "Okay, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm getting frustrated with these double teams, and you know,
they were doing
kudos,
good, man. They were really
yeah,
stopping them, man.
kudos on McVay because from that point on, he's still the beauty with the Rams is that they can get pressure with four guys, and I think McVay and whoever his defensive coordinator is, they started doing a lot of stunts because you saw Von Miller getting involved, and he was hitting those stunts and getting free looks at the quarterback and stuff. And I think there was a change in philosophy somewhere along the line also to kind of try and find a way to kind of free up the guys here because,
Hmm.
like I said, up until that point, the Bengals were doing a very good job of protecting
Hmm.
Joe Burrow and keeping him upright, but there was that one click where Aaron Donald was like, you know what, enough is enough. Let's get it. Let's get it.
Well, so it's kind of funny. So I start my day, kind of the same every day. I have, my Amazon Echo morning routine, what's the weather like today? What time is
Hmm.
it? These little things. Today I happen to ask like, Echo, who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? And Echo gave me a really interesting response. Echo said, the Rams are it seem to be really good at butting heads, but the Bengals, they seem to have 9 lives,
Yes,
and
I've heard that.
and Echo is like, so I'm going with the Bengals because they got 9 lives. Well, here's the thing: with all the sacks that have been happening, from the very first postseason game that the Bengals are in, and just like Burrow not being protected, his 9 lives ran out. It was only
Yeah,
a matter of time with that amount of stacks. It was only a matter of time of something big happening, whether a big turnover, or an injury like the one that happened.
yeah.
Now, I want to explain the injury a little bit. Joe Burrow's toe got essentially stuck under him while the rest of his body twisted around. And in jiu-jitsu, we have a move that we call a heel hook. I encourage everyone to just YouTube heel hook submission so that you can see what it looks like. And if you compare the two, it's essentially exactly a heel hook submission on the leg.
Oh no, I think that was Stafford that had the heel
No,
hook
no, no, no. Stafford had a toe
because
hold.
okay,
Yeah,
because his issue was with the knee. The knee
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah. So
buckled
exactly. So
underneath it
that's the
and
thing.
stuff.
So
Yeah.
that's the thing. A heel hook doesn't attack the heel. You hook the heel to tear the ACL.
Ah, okay, I got you.
And so when you apply a heel hook and you twist the leg, you're essentially twisting the bottom half of the leg, the shin,
Hmm.
the heel, the foot, away from the rest of the body, tearing the MCL, meniscus, and ACL pretty much all in one shot if you do it at full force.
Ugh.
I think I would not be surprised. We don't have the injury report yet exactly. And obviously, there's got to be like, more that comes out of this. But I believe, based on how he was limping, how he was moving, his lack of movement, really, that he may have suffered a serious injury to his knee, and he just kind of played through it. what ends up happening with the heel hook is that you don't necessarily have, you hear a snap, you hear a pop, you have some pain pretty quickly, um, but your leg swells up and you're still sort of mobile, but you have no stability in the leg. It's
Right.
very difficult to really move around and really be mobile on multiple planes of movement. And I think that that was the biggest issue, that was the biggest thing that affected Joe Burrow's movement, because he stopped running the ball altogether. He was running, they were running a ton of running plays. When he was throwing the ball, he was throwing them quick and short, getting the ball out of his hands right away without moving
Hmm.
around in the pocket. And I think that that is because of the knee. I think that he just really couldn't move because he had no stability in the leg. And a couple times, even on some of the run plays early on in the after the injury, you could see him putting all his weight on his good leg, his left leg, which is the one that he's recovering from the ACL injury from last season.
Right. It's
Um,
fun. It's funny you're talking about Joe Burrow, and right now he's in the press conference, kind of talking about everything that's gonna his
mm,
disappointment. He's congratulating the Rams, being very very classy, and he's also there. They also just asked him about you
the injury.
know no,
Oh,
but
okay.
they're asking him about his feelings and the hard work that he put in and what he believes is going to happen next year. And typical fashion, he's like, you know what, this is just going to make us stronger.
Yeah,
We're going to work
he's a professional.
harder. Yeah, so kudos to him. 7 sacks, 9 lives, tied for the most in Super Bowl history. Roger Staubach had 7 way back when.
Oh
So
man, that's it
it's
is a terrible stat, but I
yeah,
always feel that
it's tough.
sacks. I always feel sacks have more of a stain on the team, and I hate that the sacks go against the quarterback themselves. I feel like sacks should be a team stat, um,
I
because
agree.
the quarterback doesn't get sacked if he gets protected. I mean, what's he supposed to do? And he tried, of course he tries his best to not get sacked, but at a certain point, like, you got to protect the ball and you got to try to protect yourself, and that's why he's gotten sacked. I mean, it just sucks that that is what ended up happening late in the game, where it seems like the O line was breaking down. They were playing hesitant and kind of playing a little bit scared, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
and these things happen. I mean, it's easy to smell blood in the water when you see like these openings, and you see that you can touch the quarterback and you can get to him. You get to him once, and it's like, all right, I can get to him again. You get to him 3 4 times, and then you're like, well, let's go for one more. Like they blitz a lot more when they feel like they're vulnerable, right? So the O line did not respond properly to that, and I think that that's what ended up costing them the game.
Well, to
Well,
credit it.
one of the things that ended up costing them the game, because I think that there's one other more major thing that cost them the game.
Yeah, but like I said, to their credit, the O line I believe was missing 2 starters and has been for a while. But again, I think the O line really was kind of like the biggest weakness of the Cincinnati Bengals, and it kind
Yeah,
of showed in that
yeah,
last quarter.
yeah, I did.
Um, Cooper Cup.
Whoa, Cooper
Super
Cup.
Bowl. Can we talk about Cooper Cup? Because I'm looking over at his resume for this year, and let me throw out some stuff for you here. If you look at Cooper Cup's full season, in 21 games, the man had 178 catches, 2,425 yards, 22 touchdowns. Now, if you're going to talk about a perfect season for a receiver, he won the NFL regular season triple crown with catches, yards, and touchdowns. Unanimous All Pro, most catches in a single postseason with 33. NFL Offensive Player of the Year, Super Bowl MVP. I mean,
I mean,
can
there's
there
nothing
be a
really.
more?
There's nothing more to say, and
Yeah,
he really, really stepped up, because when
absolutely.
you consider that you no longer had OBJ, I think that, like, it's very easy to see to that okay, Cooper Cup had a lot of success in the postseason and in the regular season and the whole nine, because of the threat of OBJ also on the field. Kind of divides the attention with OBJ being taken out so early, which, going back to OBJ, he had his the first touchdown in the game, so
Yeah,
he
he
got
was
his
playing
action.
well.
He had he made his stamp. He was definitely effectual in the game itself. But coming out so early, now all the focus can be on Cooper Cup, and they still couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
So he
I
rose to
mean,
the occasion and challenge, and I think that's like you cannot have more of a statement piece there. It's like, all right, I'm the man in this game, and I'm going to show it.
and especially in that last drive was huge, because Cooper Cup up until that point was kind of quiet, but that last drive, I think he had what, four catches for like 50 some odd yards in that cat,
All
and
all his
and
all his
and that
catches,
was all him,
all
you
his
know.
catches were really big. I mean that's a hard man to stop. It seems like.
Yeah, I think the OBJ injury really affected the Rams because they could not find that second option. It took them a while. I mean, they tried going to Darrell Henderson, they tried Van Jefferson. These guys were dropping passes. They and I it took them a while for them to kind of get back into the flow of things.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of went away from Cooper Cup in an attempt to try and find that second option when probably they should have been feeding him the entire time. Cooper Cup is a rare talent where you know that he's going to get the ball and
Well,
you still can't stop him,
well,
you know?
I think a little bit of credit has to go to the Bengals, where like when OBJ stepped off the field, the Bengals were able to really focus on defending Cooper Cup, and maybe just Cooper Cup couldn't really get open.
Could be. It's
I
true.
think that that was the bigger thing, and it's, in the second half they just didn't do a better job of that. I think maybe they were maybe a little bit exhausted, maybe spread a little bit too thin, maybe getting a little overconfident with like some of the moves that they were doing and having success with. You know, it can make anyone feel like, oh man, we got this in the bag, even though they're only up by a touchdown. You know,
Yeah. It's interesting. Time of possession was very even. The Rams had it for 30 minutes and 47 seconds. The Bengals 29-13. So, it was a pretty even uh, game in terms of time of possession. And one thing that we had commented on in our chat, and it's funny because that played a huge part at the very, very end of the game. For the most part, this game was penalty free.
except for when the refs went crazy with penalties.
Exactly. And I think we had what, like three or four penalties within the span of a minute at the very end of the game. I know that we had a touchdown was taken away because of offsetting penalties. And then there was a two other holding penalties and stuff. And it just kind of elongated that last minute and a half,
Not only
with
elongated, it just inched them in closer. I mean, you know, like the penalties were a big bad on the Bengals, but how'd you feel about how'd you feel about some of those penalties? I mean, I thought the first holding penalty was really questionable.
yeah, some of those penalties were questionable. An interesting stat that they had put on the TV, broadcast was the difference in the type of penalties that they were getting because, the Rams were getting penalties, in terms of procedural, holding things of that nature,
Yeah.
where the Bengals were getting all these stupid little, personal foul injury, penalties and stuff like
Yeah, I
that,
mean,
and
I thought that personal foul injury was like personal
those
foul
things those things
penalty was
killed them.
that was kind of BS though. Like he did a stiff arm to the guy right there. Like I mean, like that's jockeying that happens at the end of a play all the
Yeah.
time, man. If you're gonna call look like a little shove with one hand at the end of a play, you're gonna call that as a personal foul. You
Well,
can
you
call
know
that
what?
you can call that at the end of every play, every single
That's
play. You can call
that's
that.
true. But you know what? As an NFL player, you have to part of the thing. You not only scouting players, you're scouting refs. And so if you know that these particular refs have a proclivity of calling these tic tac plays, don't do them.
I mean,
it's just
yeah,
as
yeah,
simple
I
as
know.
that.
It's a
You
discipline
know
thing, I know, but
exactly. It's all about
but they
discipline.
weren't though. But they weren't. That's the thing. They
You know,
weren't. You know, they just decided to do it then. You know, I thought the first uh
it was a very clean game up until those
yeah,
last 2 minutes.
yeah. I mean, again, I thought that the first holding penalty in that sequence that you talk about was it wasn't holding, man. Like he had his hand on the waist, but he wasn't holding him back in any way whatsoever. I think that was tough. And then
You can make the case that he kind of impeded his ability to catch the ball. Holding is not always about grabbing laundry. Holding can be putting put it as simple as just putting a hand in
Yeah, but we're talking.
preventing
Yeah, but he
somebody
wasn't.
from raising his hand, and
Yeah,
so you
and that
can
I agree.
kind of make the
That I
case,
agree,
you know.
but that wasn't the case though. We're talking about hands around the waist, and he wasn't hugging him. It's literally just one hand in front, one hand in back. That's it. And
Yeah,
that's like
well,
it's just I just felt like that was like I don't know. Maybe the refs were like, man, we haven't done anything today. Let's make something happen. You know what I mean?
if that's the case, that's bad, because you know what, you never want the referees to be the reason why you win or lose a game. You know, the referees should not be the instrument for the difference between a victory and a defeat. And so, you know, um, but it's like I said, it was a very, very, very entertaining game. You know, it kind of there were points where, you know, there were some lulls in the action, but you know what? At the end of the day, you came out with a very, very close game, a game that came down to the last minute. So, I mean, and again, in a postseason of games like this is just the perfect little cherry on top in terms of, you know, what we've seen this year. Um,
So I mentioned earlier that I think that there's one more thing that cost them the game.
mhm.
And it was a little bit foreshadowed, I think, in the Bengals first in their opening drive, where I think that there were some questionable play calls. In the opening drive,
Yes.
you had a it was in the
Is it
second
the?
down they ran a run play that went nowhere, and they
Mhm.
immediately called the exact same play as if it was going to change, and it got stopped the exact same way. And in my mind is like, it's your opening drive. Like, I understand they're scripted, but it just got stopped. Do you think that they won't be able to stop it again? Like, when it looks exactly, I'm talking about like exactly the same,
Yeah.
and I didn't get that. So I was already kind of like questioning the play calling a little bit there. And then in the final possession, in fourth and one, they go for a screen pass attempt. And it's like, man, it's
Yeah.
1 yard. Like, run that ball. Like, man, put it just it's 1 yard. If you're gonna go for it with a run where it's a little bit more secure, not when you have an injured quarterback that everyone is just that's been sacked 7 times.
And
And
especially when you're running the ball well, right?
yeah, exactly. They were running it so well. They practically seemed unstoppable with the run play. And he decides for the final play. This is the play that's gonna that if you don't hit this 1 yard, the entire game is over for you. And you're gonna pass when so many things can happen on the pass. A turnover, a miss, a
Yeah.
drop ball, like all that stuff for a yard. Are you kidding me?
Well, I think one of the biggest eye openers for me was early in the first quarter, which kind of set up, you know, the Rams' first opening score. The choice for Zach Taylor to take the ball 4th and 1 at the 50 and try and convert, which directly led to a Los Angeles Rams touchdown, the first
Yeah,
points of the
yeah. I
game.
thought that was
I thought
yeah,
that was kind of sketchy to do at that point. You know, you don't that I understand you want to be aggressive and stuff like that, but you know what? That's probably the wrong end of the field to do it. You know, you want
yeah,
to, you know, you miss that, you give the other team terrific field position, which eventually they did capitalize on. So that was probably one of the bigger points of the game right there.
yeah,
You know, it
yeah.
just kind of got Los Angeles started,
Yeah,
and you know,
yeah. I mean, I think that there was like a little bit of overconfidence there on the play calling, a little bit
yeah,
not
I
being
think so.
smart, not being conservative. When you're feeling yourself, sometimes you feel yourself too much, and I think that there was a little bit of that there, on Zach Taylor's part, and I think that he's gonna kick himself in the butt for a long time for that final 4th and 1 play. I don't know why I just really don't know why you wouldn't run it there. Punch it in 1 yard.
Yeah.
They could have made that happen. They were making it happen the entire game, and it hurt me to see that. As soon as I saw him drop back for a pass, it just yeah,
Sometimes
yeah,
you kind of overthink these things, right? You kind of think that you're a little bit Oh, I know better, right?
Yeah.
That's when you get in trouble right there. Um, I is there anything else there that we're kind of looking at? I mean, talk about the defense. The defense was, again, the Rams. They kind of showed up toward the end of the game. Um,
Right.
the defense for the Bengals was pretty good.
I thought it was pretty good throughout the
Yeah,
entire game. Even like
yeah,
even in the fourth quarter, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I think Cooper Cup is just a difficult man to stop if you put the ball in
yes.
his hands and stuff. But I don't think that the defense did any like huge missteps with the exception of the that series of penalties where we got like 3 4 penalties in a row that basically brought them. They could have stopped the Rams and forced the field goal. They could have. They were able to like create the stops and whatnot, and you know, like essentially extending that drive an extra 4 plays just to get them at the first and goal is just I don't know. I mean, they were on the 1 yard line, right?
Yes, they were on the 1 yard line
Due to
because
penalties,
after yes,
due to
they
penalties, yeah.
started on the 7, if I remember correctly, and three penalties later, they got them down to the 1 and stuff. So, um, what didn't come back to bite the Rams was that miss extra point.
It didn't. It could have, but
Yeah,
it
and
didn't. It didn't.
that could have been a big play in the game. Uh, because you know what? At that point, the Bengals could have gone. If they had made that extra point,
Hmm.
it was the Bengals forced to get a touchdown on that last drive. The
Hmm. Hmm.
Bengals did have the opportunity to go for a field goal to tie the game. They never got to that point because
Yeah.
of the defense, but that could have been a big point in the game. Lucky for them, it didn't happen. So, you know,
What a freaking season!
it
What
has
a
been.
season!
So
Oh,
now,
where do you go from now? What do we do
well,
now?
now we wait for the combine in March and the NFL draft in
And we can go
April.
back to talking about how much the Giants and the Jets suck.
Well, you know what? I do think that there's an opportunity for both New York teams to get better and get better quickly. I
Yeah,
think
I think so.
I think
So
this game really, more so than any other past Super Bowl game, represents kind of a changing of the guard here.
hmm
I think what you're seeing is that the older guys are kind of getting older, and they're moving over and making space for the new guys coming in, and I think that bodes well for the league because there are a lot of exciting players out there, and I think it presents an opportunity. And I was talking about this with my wife the other day. In terms of the Jets and the Giants, to me, have a better path to getting to the Super Bowl quicker than the Jets do. And the reason why I'll tell you this is that I think, we mentioned this before, the AFC is loaded with quarterbacks. So if you look at the Jets situation, Zach Wilson has to get through Joe Burrow. He's got to get through Patrick Mahomes. He's got
yeah,
to get
yeah,
through,
yeah.
uh, you know,
I mean,
um,
you guys have it tough on your side,
Lamar
way,
Lamar
way more
Jackson.
than we do. There's no question about it. No question
So
about it.
you guys, believe it or not, have a better opportunity to get further along in the playoffs than the Jets do. Now, I think the Jets, in terms of personnel wise and where they are, maybe just about a year or two ahead of the Giants in terms of getting better. But you guys have the opportunity to get better very, very quickly, and in a conference that doesn't have as many elite quarterbacks as um, the AFC does, it makes it a little bit easier for you guys. So there's hope for Big
Yeah,
Blue.
yeah,
There's hope for Big Blue.
yeah.
And I think the fan base is excited by the choices that they've made in terms of leadership with the GM and not only the head coach but the assistant coaches as well. I think you could probably speak to that.
Hmm.
That some of these guys that they're bringing in are very, very well respected and known for kind of like their knowledge of football and schemes and stuff. I
Yeah, no,
think that that's
absolutely.
got to
And
make you excited, right?
I'm super excited with what we got. I am really, really, truly excited. I'm confident that from a front office and coaching staff perspective that we're getting it, that we're going to be able to get it done with what we got. Now it's just a matter of seeing if Daniel Jones can actually, you
He's
know,
the big
if
question mark
yeah,
for you guys.
he's the only question mark really. You know, it was is Daniel Jones a Sam Darnold, or is there more to be seen? You know, does he have? I mean, I'm sure that he has the potential. Um, but we'll see. I mean, Dan Jones literally only has just this one season to make it happen. Otherwise,
Right.
that front office is going to go out and do what they got to do. You know, I believe Joe Shane is the kind of guy that he's not afraid to make moves. I think it's very very apparent in his hiring of Dable that he doesn't care what people think, you know, about the moves that he's going to do, and I think that that's probably what it's going to come down to after the season. If Dan Jones doesn't make it happen, I think that Joe Shane is gonna make the move. You know?
Well, Joe Shane is going to have to really ball out this off season here because I know the salary cap situation isn't great for you, so you're not going to be able to build that way, at least not as much as you want to. I think it has to be all about the draft. I think he's going to have to draft superbly well to try and bring in some talent into the Giants, and you know, and give Daniel Jones the tools to be properly evaluated this year, because like you said, he's only got the 1 year, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
he's gonna have to be surrounded with some talent, because how do you evaluate if there's no talent around you?
yeah, yeah.
So
Exactly.
joe Joe Shane is really gonna have to knock it out in terms of drafting, because I think that's the only avenue he has, at least this year. He's not going to be able to improve the team via the free agency and stuff. So um,
So, that's it. On is there anything else that you want to talk about, football and Super Bowl related?
no, I'm just happy we had a great Super Bowl. I'm really glad for Matthew Stafford. I'm really glad for you know Odell Beckham Jr. I'm glad for the Andrew Whitford. He had a great story where he was talking about one of the players that came up to him.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
it was a heartwarming. Again,
Because he got
all
the
all
Man of
about
the Year award,
stories.
right?
Yeah. And again, football is all about stories. And you hear these heartwarming stories, and it's just like, you want to pull for that guy a little bit more when you're watching them. So I'm really happy for the Rams. I think it's good for their organization. I think it's good for the guys on that team. I do feel bad for the Bengals because they've had this storybook
It's
the
the Cinderella
storybook,
season.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of came crashing down at the end here. But you know what? It's like I said before, Joe Burrow, if they go ahead and make this team better, he's got the opportunity to be there a couple more times. And I know it's tough, especially in that conference, but you know what? He is a very special player. I think everybody can see that. And so, he'll have a chance to be back there. I really do think he'll be back there. It's going to be between him. It's going to be between Mahomes. Lamar Jackson's going to get there, but those guys are going to be knock 'em and sock 'em for the next 10 years. And it's going to be really, really fun to watch.
So I have since all right. So this is it's interesting. It's interesting because I really wanted to make this podcast just about football and just about the Super Bowl,
I
but
know where you're going. I
we have
know
to
where you're
give the
going.
Randall report. I cannot go a week without giving the Randall report. But here's the interesting thing: I would have given up on the Randall report had last week's report card not been what it is. Now, here's the thing
So
about Randall. No, go on. Yes,
so what are we doing? We're doing
the Randall report.
the Randall Report.
The
The
Randall
Randall.
report.
The Randall Report.
Here is
Gotcha.
the thing. So he has been having an absolutely terrible season on and off the court. I think that like on the court, he's been absolutely terrible. Off the court, he's been terrible with the media, just like this like ridiculous kind of I don't want to be here kind of attitude. And we just had the trade deadline that just passed on the 10th.
Right.
Interesting thing is that trade deadline came and went, and all of a sudden he's like a media darling. He's like is speaking with like professionalism, dealing with professional, being a team player every which way around. And he had every single game in the last week was a marquee game. He had the first game against the Nuggets, no, against the Jazz. He scored 30 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. But then after that, he went 3 games, 28 each game, 28 points each game. In the last 2 games, 10 rebounds. It was 28, 10 rebounds. Then the last 2 games, it was even equal actually, 28 points and 16 rebounds in both games. Hustling, fighting. He's like, I mean, who gets that many rebounds in a week and still scores in pretty good double digit numbers, even though they lost most of the games. um, I gotta give credit where credit's due. If I'm gonna bash him when he's bad, I gotta give him credit when he's doing well. And he was hustling out there. You know, maybe make a few missteps here and there in the our fourth quarter woes, but we can't put it. You know, you can't just always completely put it on everyone, especially when they're hustling. I look at rebounds as a really important hustling part of the game.
Right.
If he's being a forward, um, he's in the paint. He's looking for the rebounds. He's looking for putbacks. He's looking to make sure that, like, defensively, that the other side of the court is not taking the ball away. However, he was there every single bit of the way. And I mean, I wish he could play every single game this way. I have this little conspiracy theory in my mind that, like, he was kind of playing really crappy, just devaluating himself up until the trade deadline so that nobody would want him, so he doesn't get traded. And then all of a sudden he's gonna go back to playing well. And look at how he's playing now
It's
after the trade deadline. It's crazy to me. The
it's
coincidence is too
funny.
high.
It's funny because, like you said, the trade deadline was the 10th, right? The 10th, they played the Golden State Warriors and came away with a
An
almost
impressive win.
right, exactly. But you know what? It felt like the Knicks, especially in that game, they had that collective.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, okay, we got through the deadline. Nobody got traded. It was kind of like a weight that was lifted off of their shoulders. And you know what? It kind of went into the Trailblazer game also, because, and it's funny because I started watching the game and they were up big at one point, and I thought, okay, this might be the start of something. But then, of course, I found out later from one of your texts that they had lost, and I'm like, what? How did that
Yeah,
happen?
I don't know. So here's the thing, right? Like, this is where I've been a Thibodeau supporter since he come. I will defend him every which way. But in this last game against Portland, he really, like, I don't understand some of his decisions. I mean, Mitch Robinson only played 14 minutes. Um, but Fournier, 36 minutes, 4 points. Taj Gibson, 27 minutes, 8 points, just 7 rebounds. Just giving us crap numbers, and I don't understand why he's so adamant about sticking with the rotation once he makes the decision. If it's not working, you got to be able to, like, you know, pull an audible and make a change. Like, if they're playing crappy, take them out, man. Put someone else in there. If it's not clicking tonight, okay, set him out, do whatever. But he's just, you know, Evan Fournier sometimes has really good games where he's shooting well, but then when we have Julius Randle with 28, Quentin Grimes with 20, Kemba Walker 23, and the bench playing it, like, hitting some points here and there, 8, 8, 6, and 4 between Gibson, even though Gibson was terrible to me. But Burks, Reddish, and Quickly, they can score even though they got really small amount of play time. How can you have someone like Fournier play 36 minutes and get 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 4 points? That's it. Like, that's a
Yeah,
waste of floor space. That's a
it
waste of
is.
minutes.
The one thing I will say about this is that they have been playing hard for him, and that is a good thing in my mind. They haven't kind of, it's very easy for this team to kind of say, you know what, let's just check out. We're not going to play hard for you. They're still playing hard for Tibbs, so
They
there's that
are. They
positive.
absolutely are. But the thing is, like, even if you're playing hard, Tibbs is that's what he does. He's known for rewarding playtime based on effort. All he cares about is how much effort you put out there. If it's not, like, in his mind, it's all right. It may not hit now, but if you're giving me the effort, then I'm gonna let you play. You know what I mean? Because in his mind, he's like, it will click at some point. But if
Right.
it's not clicking, it's not clicking. you know? Like at a
It's
certain point, you just got to be like, all right, I got to make an executive decision here, and I got to sit you down.
yeah.
And I really wish that he would do that a little bit more, and play the bench a little more. I can't wait for D Rose to come through because I think D Rose elevates and gives us the leadership that's lacking on the floor. Um, but I don't know what
But
it's gonna be.
we need RJ back in the lineup. I like the fact that Cam Reddish is getting some playtime and he's showing that he's deserving to be in the lineup also.
But he's getting very
Um,
little play time.
yeah, but you know what? When he is there, he's showing, you know, that he should probably get some more, and he deserves to be in that
And
rotation.
yeah,
And I think you just hit up on something that's very important with the Knicks, and I think this is kind of the frustration that us as Knicks fans have, is that you see other teams getting better, and you see other teams getting better with players and positions that you need, and we're not doing anything to procure that talent. And I think one of the biggest things that's kind of wrecking this season is the lack of a point guard or true point guard
yeah,
that
yeah. I
y-
still can't believe that we did nothing with Kemba Walker.
yeah, I know. And you know what? The fact that we're waiting on D Rose speaks volumes of the fact that we need that type of general, on the court kind of leading this offense. And we haven't had that. We haven't had that for a long time
Yeah,
with this team. And so I think, if there's one thing that kind of frustrates us as Knicks fans, is that you're seeing other teams going out and making trades for, talent in terms of, point guards and stuff that we could have had. Now, granted, we may not have the draft capital, or we don't have the players to be able to, but at least you hope that they're making some sort of effort, you
yeah,
know
yeah,
because to not do anything at the deadline when you know that this team is in need of some talent infusion, if you're even thinking about making the playoffs this year and you do nothing, that's kind of hard to take as a fan. It really, really
yeah.
is.
It is. It is. I mean, we'll see what happens at the end of the season. We'll see where we are. We're still not out of it completely. I think that we can maybe still make a run and make it to the wild card, or
Mm.
as an eighth seed, and see what happens. But
It's getting
I don't know.
tougher. It's
Anyway,
getting
so
tougher.
so the actual report card grade for Randall. Okay. It's hard for me, man, because I think that if we had seen the conversion of his play this week into wins, then I would have been in the A range. But I got to give him a B plus, just because his his play did not translate to wins, except for the big win against Golden State, a game that nobody expected us to win, but then everyone completely expected us to win against the Trailblazers. I mean, it is just it's kind of heartbreaking.
I,
But yeah,
I, I I'm gonna give him a B, only because you know what, I still don't like his field goal percentage.
he's a little high still on turnovers too. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you're getting 28 on 23 attempts. I'd like to see a little bit more efficiency, especially the type of game that he plays. Although he does kind of lean out toward the 3-point line, but in the last two games, he's 0 for 7 from that range, and so
yeah. But I mean, so this is where the whole rebound game comes into play. Is that he's
right.
he's he's missing shots, but he's getting his own rebounds. He's hustling for his own ball,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
make things
yeah.
happen. So I
So
like
so
you gotta reward hustle. So
these are positive steps that we're seeing.
yeah,
He
yeah,
he's moving in the right direction finally.
yeah.
So that's why I'm
It's
not
not
gonna.
too late. It's not too late, Knicks.
He's still
It's not
okay.
too late. It's not too
Okay.
late. It's not too late.
Before we wrap up, I want to get your impressions on the Nets trade,
Ha!
because that was a
Ha!
huge thing around here.
Oh, that made me
The,
so happy.
the beard is gone.
So happy.
So, do you think, clearly it was great in terms of the short term for Philadelphia, because now Philadelphia has that extra star, and they got rid of the quote unquote malcontent in Ben Simmons, right?
Yeah.
So it works well for Philadelphia in terms of the short term, because now you can make the case they're legitimate NBA Finals contenders, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how does that work for the Nets? Now the Nets, I still think that the Nets kind of made out like bandits in this
Oh, they
trade,
absolutely did. No question about it.
but I think they're you're going to see the benefits this more long term than it is short term for them,
Maybe.
and the reason why that kind of can be a little bit problematic is because this team was kind of made for a win now mentality, right? You've got Kyrie there, you've got KD there, and you brought in Harden for the very specific reason of winning a championship this
Right.
year, and now
Right.
you're kind of walking away from that, and that is a little problematic, and especially in terms of the fact that KD seems to be getting hurt a lot recently.
Well, I mean, that's
You
that's
know,
that's 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 KD, and it's
yeah,
kind of like indicative of it's not it's kind of like that was always going to be the issue with having these guys on, because the thing is, the truth is that having the three of them on the floor at the same time, they were nearly unstoppable. They were
yeah,
13-3 in the 16 games that they played together. But that's the problem. The problem is that in 2 seasons, well, a season and a half, they only played 16 times together because due to
yeah,
injury, because of Kyrie's stance on the vaccine, which it seems like it's potentially being. I think that Kyrie will end up playing at home before the end of the season. I do believe so.
right. Because
Um,
we're seeing those
so
mandates being lifted
yeah, exactly.
all
And
over the
I
country.
think that, like, if Harden wasn't who he was, if he had stuck it out for the rest of the season and not, requested a trade, basically, they might have been in good position to actually win. Because if you have when Kyrie's on the floor, he's a spectacle. So if you got Kyrie and Harden, or Kyrie and KD, or Kyrie, KD and Harden, like it's a spectacle of play. But when you got someone like Harden that just doesn't want to be there anymore, even if he's on the play if he, on the court, he's not doing anything, and that's really kind of what happened in the last like 20 odd games from Harden's perspective, and I laughed because I called it when the Nets were begging to bring Harden over. It's like, you see what he did to the Rockets. You think that he wouldn't do that to
Yeah,
you?
I
And you
know.
want that on your team? Are you kidding me? And
Did
everyone's like,
you?
no, we want it. We want it. I'm like, yo, like, you guys are going to reap what you sow. No
Oh,
question about it.
did you see the video of the quote unquote draft for the All Star game?
Uh,
Team LeBron versus Team KD, and it
oh,
came down.
yes, yes, yes. And
It
it
came
came
down
down to
to
Harden. Yeah.
yo. Let me
Oh,
tell you,
boy.
LeBron was cracking up because he knew exactly what was going on at that point, and KD was trying to be very stoic and trying to keep himself together, and not coming up with all these reasons why not to draft James Harden. I found that completely hilarious. Um, the effects of this trade for the Nets is not going to show up until probably next year. I don't think
Maybe. Yeah, I don't
you're
think so.
not
I don't
gonna.
think it's gonna happen this year for sure. But here's one thing
No,
about Ben
yeah.
Simmons is that I have a like, and mental health is a serious thing. Okay, don't get
Hmm.
me wrong. I believe it's 100% serious. But given how Ben Simmons was treating his relationship with the organization, him not wanting to play with them and wanting a trade, I don't think that it was a mental health issue. It became a mental health issue when he started getting fined, and when it was like, well, you either play or you're just going to keep getting fined for every game you miss, this, that, and the other. Then he turned it into a mental health issue, which I'm just skeptical over that, because it's very convenient that it's a mental health issue now that it's costing you, as
Right,
opposed to from the get. You know,
right.
I think that he's gonna end up, like, oh, I'm all good now. Put me in, coach. Put me in, coach. You know what I mean? And Ben Simmons is a great and amazing player, but
He
I
is.
believe that, like, like, if the organization does something wrong to you as a player, as an employee, any organization for that matter, as an employee, you should want out. But just because you don't like certain moves that they do, that you just want out. And he only started acting this way after he saw the success that Harden had in forcing his way out of Houston. And you're seeing this in some other players. We potentially are seeing that with Randle. Um, it's really difficult for me to accept that from a professionalism standpoint. You may not want to play for an organization, you may not want to, but you're beholden, especially in sports, you're beholden to the fans that are paying for a ticket to go watch you, that are buying your jerseys, and that are following you around whatever team you go. You owe it to them to show up to work. And choosing not to show up to work, Harden choosing not to show up for the Nets just because he wants to get traded and he just doesn't feel like being there is such a betrayal of the fan, and it's unforgivable to me because I'm the one. You get paid millions of dollars to play the game. I if I'm working minimum wage so that I can pay for my cable service or buy a ticket in the bleachers or buy like a cheaper replica version of your jersey because I love how you play, that's a disservice to me who is spending hard-earned cash that I maybe can't spend on you for playing millions of dollars, we're getting paid millions of dollars to whine and complain about like, oh, I don't vibe with the team anymore. Come on, man, show up.
So the one last thing I want to say about this is in terms of Ben Simmons and how he's going to fit with the Brooklyn Nets, because one of the criticisms, I guess it's a criticism, I don't know, is his lack of wanting to shoot the ball. He's kind of a guy that defers, which for his position, right, as a point guard, is kind of what you want, right?
Mhm.
You want him, and him being a 6'11" point guard is ridiculous,
Yeah,
right?
that is crazy.
But Brooklyn already has a point guard in Kyrie Irving, and so how do you put those two guys on the floor at the same time? You know, um, how is it that, because if you're going to put him as a point guard, right, 6'11", that means you're taking 6'2" Kyrie Irving and moving him over into the shooting guard position. And shooting guards, they're generally taller and a little bit more athletic and stuff, right? Do you leave
I don't
him? Do
know.
you
I don't
move him
know, and I don't
over?
care because I'm not a
You
Nets
know,
fan. The Nets can go kick rocks,
he's a very, very interesting study, and I don't know how he's going to fit with the Nets right now, because I mean,
and I don't care. I
all
do
right,
not
I
care,
guess
except
that
for the
answers
fact that
my
I can
question,
the
right?
fact that I can laugh in y'all's faces. Sorry, guys, but you can't come in here and say that you guys are the other New York team. You're not the New York team. I don't care how bad the Knicks suck. We suck right now. But you can't come in here with your fancy schmancy little, I want to say big three, which it's not anymore, and be like, oh, we're gonna take over the city. We're gonna bring a championship. No, you're not, and no, you didn't. So it's over. The honeymoon is over. Get out of here.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting, though. It really, really is. But hey, and you bring in Seth Curry, who's a shooting guard. You kind of have a logjam right there in the back court.
I,
You
I I
know,
do I do believe that what they brought in are tradable assets. I don't think that these guys are going to be long term. I don't think Seth Curry is going to be long term. I don't think the draft picks that they got this year are long term. I think these are tradable assets that they're going to have in the offseason.
yeah, he's Seth Curry's not a bad little player, though. I
He's
mean,
not.
he's
He
he's
just
a
maybe
he's a
doesn't fit in
guy.
the scheme, or
Yeah.
maybe there's something that the Nets know that we don't know. Maybe Kyrie Irving wants to leave. Maybe KD wants to leave. Maybe they're gonna start
Oh,
requesting trades.
that is
I
a
don't
that
care.
is a disaster for the
Oh, you know
Nets.
what? If that happens, it just gives me more reason to laugh, and it's comic relief for me.
Yeah.
Ha!
All right.
All right.
On that note,
That would have been the most awesome. Well, not would have. It is. It is the most awesome way to end this. And that is the Gabe and Walt Show.
there you go.
Don't forget to like, rate, share, and subscribe. Make sure you guys follow us. Share this episode with somebody that you agree or don't agree with, or who you think doesn't agree with us, or whatever it may be. Anything that'll cause you to share and hit the share button right now, please do so right now. But thank you guys for joining us, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun. Sure we did.
Yep. So on that note, congratulations, LA Rams. Peace out, people.
Peace.